Welcome to MirrorFly, a unified communications product for real-time chat, audio, and video calls SDK. I shall be walking you through integrating Chat SDK in 20 minutes. In this video, we shall deep dive to understand how to send and receive the first chat message for the Android platform. You can easily add real-time chat features to your client app in less than 20 minutes. You may also use our pre-built sample application available in GitHub. Download today to explore more about the real-time chat and call features. This is the fastest way to build your app's UI with MirrorFly Chat SDK. Before getting started with the integration steps, you need to know the basic system requirements to integrate Chat SDK. Also, in the SDK integrations, you need to know about the SDK license key to initiate chat. You can get a valid and unique license key from the MirrorFly user console or dashboard. You would need to be a registered user to access the console page. Since I am already a registered user, I'm logging into my MirrorFly user console. On the overview page, you can find your unique license key, API credentials. You can get access to the sample project source code, SDK files to test your integrations. Let's start with integrating the Chat SDK. In the first step, create a new project or use an existing project in the Android Studio. I am creating a new project. You can select the type of project you want to create from the categories of devices. I have selected the empty activity. Specify the name of your project to start with your integrations. Select the minimum API level you want your app to support. Your project is configured to use Android libraries by default, which replace the Android support libraries. Now, successfully created the libraries. Now moving on to step 2, if you're using Gradle 6.7 or lower, add the following code to your root build.gradle file as showed in the documents. If using Gradle 6.8 or higher, add the following code to your settings.gradle file. Here I am using Gradle 6.8 version in my application. Paste the copied Gradle code in settings.gradle file. This settings file defines project-level repository settings and informs Gradle which modules it should include when building your app. Now, moving on to step 3. Copy and add the dependency code in the app/build.gradle file. This included all the required remote binary dependencies. These dependencies require that you declare the appropriate remote repositories where Gradle should look for the library. Now moving on to step 4. Here we would copy and add the Gradle.properties file into the project to avoid imported library conflicts in the project. This Android plugin automatically migrates existing third-party libraries by rewriting their binaries. Now moving on to step 5, to add user permissions. To add these user permissions, open the Android manifest.xml and add the below permissions to integrate your Chat SDK. You must declare all permission requests with an element in the manifest. If the permission is granted, the app is able to use the protected features. Let us see how to initialize the Chat SDK. The Chat Manager class is used to provide the necessary data to the SDK. Create a new application class file. To start using the SDK, there is a need for some basic requirements before proceeding with the initialization process. Override the onCreate method in your class. Copy the initialize Chat SDK method. In your application class, inside the onCreate method, use the below Chat Manager to provide the necessary data. In license key, setting the param as string is required to proceed with the registration process. When you are in the trial mode, by default the sandbox servers will be used. After purchasing a plan, it will be upgraded to a dedicated server instance. You can copy the license key from the overview section in the console dashboard. Paste the copied license key in initialize function. Once initialize the SDK successfully, print the log success, otherwise it executes a failure. Now moving on to registering a user. Here I used a simple UI with a register button to register a user. Already created the layout for the register button in the main activity file. Before that, you can give the activity main binding. View binding works with your existing XML and will generate a binding object for each layout in a module. To perform registration, use the following method. Try to add a registration function inside the button action to avoid error status or delayed responses. Make sure that you have called the registration method only once in the application, because we have maintained the reconnection mechanism after app killed, so you don't need to call the register method again. User ID must be unique ID, set as any alphanumeric, and don't use any special characters. Create the toast once registration success, otherwise shows failure. This register user method will accept FCM token, force register, user type, and list metadata as an optional parameter, and you can handle it as per your needs in the app. Is force register as an optional param for maintaining sessions. Firebase Cloud Messaging, or FCM, offers a broad range of messaging options and capabilities. A registration token that is generated by the FCM SDK for the user's app instance to send messages for free. Once registration was successful, connect to the chat server, and Chat SDK also observe the changes in application lifecycle, and accordingly it will try to connect and disconnect the chat server. Once the chat connection listener has been set, you will be able to receive the connection status changes in callback method. Create a toast for chat connection listener whenever callback triggers. Once toast shows the status after registration. Once the registration is done, you can connect with the server and get the notification message in toast. The registration was failure, server will be automatically disconnected. In case if the connection not authenticated and not established, you can get a notification message in toast. Automatic reconnection enabled in server using on reconnecting method. In the documents, we have added more information about setting individual ID and group ID. Call the chat connection function in once registration successfully. Chat connection listener callbacks will triggers. Now let's see how to send a one-to-one message. Here I used a simple UI for sending the text message, already created the layout for text view. The chat activity file before that, you can give the activity main binding. View binding works with your existing XML and will generate a binding object for each layout in a module. To send a message, use the following method. In your application class, inside the onCreate method, use the following method to send a text message. Text message accepts the argument as to JID and message text. To generate the JID for any user, you must use the getJID method. To generate a unique user ID, you must call the other user's username using method flyutils.getJID with username as a string. The username will always be a string and does not include any special characters. Text represents the message the user wants to send to another user. Here is the sample code to show the text message in UI. You have to binding the text content to visible in our UI to show the text message after sending successfully. Let's see how to receive a one-to-one message. You need to initialize Observer Message Events Listener to receive any message and observe all the incoming messages sent to you. Now paste the Message Event Listener method in Chat Activity file. The listeners would be called only when a new message is received from other user. Here is the sample code to show the receive message in UI. You have to binding the text content to visible in our UI to show the receive message for the user after receiving successfully. Call the Chat Activity file in Main Activity class. Once our registration success connected to the server after that Chat Activity class will be start to execute on it. Now run the application in emulator or plugged-in device. Let's see the demo for send and receive message. For that, I need to register a new user. I am registering the user using a phone number. I have used user's phone number as the unique identifier here while registering the user. In the debug log, check for registration status. It would return the message for successful registration, and we could see the connection got established successfully. So, the user registration and server connection are done successfully, now all set to send the first message to another user. The message is sent to another user, and a push notification alert is also sent to notify the receiver about the new message. Great. Successfully send the message. To ensure the integration is working perfectly, the receiver can now send a reply to the sender. So the send and received chat message in Android is completed. Thank you for your time. Hope you were able to follow the steps, and this video is helpful in your Chat SDK integrations. For more information, please refer to our documentations. If you have any questions or need further support, feel free to reach our customer success team from the user console. Choose MirrorFly for real-time in-app chat features to enhance and build greater customer experience. Thank you.